Hi, hello friends. Yeah, welcome back in podcast with Dr. Priyanka. Today in this podcast, we are going to listen about the mechanism of breathing. It is basically a topic from physiology. It is useful for the medical students, and kindly stay tuned. So basically, the podcast whole will be in English. Minimum words will be used in Hindi. So let's get started. So mechanism of breathing. So basically, the thing is, breathing is a necessary activity for the human body, for every living being on the earth. So what happens with the human beings, basically physiologically? So see, what are the main organs where breathing happens is lungs. Lungs are situated in the thoracic cavity. So the expansion of lungs during inspiration follows enlargement of thoracic cavity in all diameters by contraction of respiratory muscles. ठीक है? Whenever there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that happens into the lungs. So when we inhale, that is जब हम सांस लेते हैं, there is expansion of the lungs, and that happens during inspiration. That is the definition of inspiration. And along with that, there will be the enlargement of the thoracic cavity. It's a bit normal when the lungs are getting filled with the air. Above them is the thoracic cavity that will bit obviously get enlarged from the all diameters, how the lung is made. And along with that, the respiratory muscles, means the intercostal muscles, that will get contracted. And the muscles are diaphragm is the main muscle of respiration. Okay, the diaphragm, which is the partition between the abdominal cavity and the thoracic cavity, this is the main muscle of respiration. What it does, it separates the abdominal cavity from the thoracic cavity. So inspiration commences, that is, inspiration starts by contraction of the diaphragm. At the same time, lower ribs are moved upward. It increases the lateral and anterior posterior diameter of chest. ठीक है? So descent down of diaphragm is accompanied by displacement of abdominal content downward with relaxation of abdominal muscles. ठीक है? So listen how it happens. So when we breathe, the thing is that we need space. If air is coming inside our body, we need space. So what God has made the mechanism, He has put it a diaphragm. So when we breathe, what does the diaphragm does? Diaphragm pushes the abdominal muscles downwards. ठीक है? So because of that, there is the natural space in the body where the muscles or the organs in the abdomen, they go downward, they are pushed downwards, and that has happened because of presence of diaphragm. ठीक है? And again, when we exhale, that is when we put the air outside, it gets relaxed. ठीक है? So the diaphragm is displaced downwards by about how much? Like 1.5 centimeter. This is needed because we are the medical students. We need to know like what is the actual mechanism happening in the body. So during expiration now, that is during exhale, the diaphragm relaxes. When it was inspiring, the diaphragm was contracting. Okay, and so now in expiration, the diaphragm relaxes and the dome of the diaphragm moves upward due to contraction of abdominal muscles. So see, when there is relaxation of abdominal muscles, the diaphragm gets contract, and when there is relaxation of diaphragm muscles, the abdominal muscles get contracted, and that results in expulsion of air from the lungs. This what happens in the breathing mechanism. This was the first done by the diaphragm. So diaphragm is the main hero or the main focused thing in the breathing mechanism. Second is the intercostal muscles. Intercostal, which are the muscles present between the ribs. ठीक है? So the muscle fibers of external intercostal group run forward and downwards, whereas the internal intercostal group run backwards and downward from the rib to the rib. The motion of the rib firstly So this is the movement which happens into the intercostal muscles. Then what, along with intercostal muscle, there is the sternum. The sternum elevate, that is वो ऊपर आ जाता है. Sternum will be elevated and pushed forward due to elevation of the shafts of the rib. ठीक है, that will be the normal thing. Then this occurs due to contraction of the internal intercostal muscle, and it results in an increase in the anterior posterior diameter. So for guys, I would like to request you, you have the diagram of the lung properly made into your notebook, or if you have the anatomical journals, we need to draw into it, so you can take the reference from it or have the lung diagram in front of you, or you can go and check on the YouTube how the lung get inflate and deflate. So whatever what I'm saying, you will be able to understand, and if the concepts are clear, you will be able to write it down in the exam itself. So, and the third is like in the sternum itself, after the sternum we said like it will be elevated. Then the third will be the rib motion. The rib motion includes rotation of ribs around an axis joining 2 points of attachment of the vertebrae and the sternum. Okay? Where are the ribs attached? When you see the skeleton, the sternum is the anterior one, and the posterior we have the vertebrae, that is the spinal cord. So rib motion happens. So because of that, this all three people are who? The diaphragm, the second is intercostal muscle, and the third is rib motion. This every mechanism is happening to make out breathing in our body. Okay, so the another thing is like this is also called as bucket handle movement. So bucket handle movement is important because there are 2 fixed points of attachment. How is the bucket? We have 2 points fixed. Okay, because of that we can hold the bucket. So the same thing happens in the body. There is the rib motion, that is called as rib motion. So from the movement of the ribs from the first point, that is at the sternum, and the last point is at the vertebrae. So that happens. So this rotation causes increase in transverse diameter. Transverse मतलब आड़वा, ठीक है, आड़वा diameter जो होगा वो उसमें increase हो जाएगा, and because of that the lungs will get the utmost diameter to inflate. So during expiration, both intercostal muscle relax and the size of the thorax decreases in the anterior, posterior and transverse diameter. Same what happens in inspiration, opposite happens in the expiration. Ribs are not equal throughout the thorax. So the upper rib is nearly horizontal than the lower rib, and the inspiration, the lower ribs are affected by displacement of all superior ribs. Therefore, changes in the lateral diameter of thorax is greater in lower chest than in the upper chest. The accessory muscles. What are the accessory muscles? The sternocleidomastoid, abdominal muscles. These are the 2 accessory muscles in the body which also help in mechanism of breathing. So guys, this was short about the mechanism of breathing. If there is any confusion, I'll put this on the YouTube channel with the proper explanation in the short wave. So yeah, thank you for staying tuned. Think healthy, eat healthy, and love each other. Bye bye.